Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
What is up? What is up? I'm Jared Welch. He is Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, May 16th, and it is Preakness week. What is up? This is Blinkers Off, guys. What's up, man?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? It is going to be a great weekend. Leg 2 of the Triple Crown. We did have the big news that Muth scratched, but listen, it's still a field of 8 interesting horses. I actually think this is a great betting race now that Muth is out of it because Mystik Dan's going to be your favorite. And if you don't feel strongly about Mystik Dan, you've got options. So I think it's going to be fun.
Well, I mean, listen. Let's talk about the wins we've had so far. That the Derby winner is running in the race. That's step one, right? And I mean, here we are, like saying, "I'll just at least run in it." And now it's like, well, shit, Muth is gone. He might win it. So we'll see what the 2-week turnaround looks like for him and a couple of other horses, but. Yeah, I mean, he was a shocker in the Derby, so to speak, and he's probably going to be another betting opportunity, I think. I don't think – do you think he's going to go off the favorite, even though he did win the Derby? Do you think one of these other horses will take any steam from him?
I mean, I think the other horses are going to take a little steam, but I think Mystik Dan is your clear favorite. I think it's twofold, honestly. I think people want to root for a Triple Crown, so that public money is going to go to him. And I think when you handicap the race, you do sit there and go, well, his best race is probably going to win, right? Now, can he do it on 2 weeks? We'll see. But I think all the metrics say that, hey, he's got a big shot to win, and I think people want to root for him. And so I think 8-5, 7-5 is very realistic on what you're going to get on Mystik Dan.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, and that was the whole tale or whatever you want to call it in the Derby. It was like, yeah, I mean, and we even said it, I think, before. It was like, well, if he runs that race he ran, like that's the second best performance we've seen from any horse in the crop minus Fierceness, right? Mm-hmm. So like that was like, it wasn't like we didn't think he had that race in him. We just didn't think, we kind of thought it was fluky, whatever you want to go the list, but. Like you say, Derby or even the Southwest, I mean, that wins here, right?
It should, unless you see big improvement from a couple of these horses. But yeah, I mean, that top end race of his probably is able to beat these horses. I think it goes to the problem is, well, can he actually do that twice in a row? He never has before. What if he shows up with the Arkansas Derby type effort? Well, then all of a sudden you could beat him and win place and show, right? You could get him out of the try is what I'm trying to say. So he is that kind. He is kind of like Fierceness in a way. You look at the past performances, he has not put together back-to-back races, and we're not even talking about off 2 weeks rest. We're talking about when he's had normal rest, he hasn't been able to do it. So that's the intriguing part of it. But again, if you're with Mystik Dan, if you want to root for history, once Muth scratch, you kind of came into this race and said, yeah, no, he can win, right? Like, and maybe you did anyway, but for me, like, Muth was just, I think he was just going to dominate. But now it's like, well, I mean, we could see a winner of the first 2 legs of the Triple Crown. It's not impossible. And then you add in, it might rain, and it's like, are the horse racing gods just with this horse right now? I don't know.
Well, I'll be honest with you, dude. Like, I don't think he was going to be, if Muth would have ran, was going to be like if you guys haven't seen it yet, if you go get the betting Bible over at racingdudes.com. It's like kind of a new look. Hope you guys like it. It is available right now, but we do each list a best bet within all the other picks, but we do list our best, kind of the best win bet and a most like value. He, by no stretch, no question, Muth would have been my best bet of the day. Yeah. So like it went from that race, right, to, well, kind of like you said, well, he could do it.
Yeah. I mean, when we break it down, I've kind of broke down. And if you saw the video, I had to redo the video today. It's out. If you saw it, it's kind of like you just kind of break it down and it's like, okay, well, no matter how you look at it, he's got a big shot, And again, I'm not advocating playing a 6-5 shot if you don't think he does. Like, if you think he is vulnerable at all, playing a 6-5 isn't the smartest thing. But if you think he stands out over the field, take him. Somebody in the Discord yesterday was like, I don't know, like Rain, and he ran really good, and it might just be ready for him to win. And I'm like, look, if you feel good about him, take the price, right? Yeah. And that's just it. I mean, there could be two opinions, and none of them are neither one of them are really wrong. Like, if you're not confident, don't take 6-5. If you are, go ahead and take it.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. Again, like we did this whole song and dance, I feel like, before the Derby. So you never know, right? The Oaks. And honestly, really, there was not a lot of impact on the Oaks and Derby after all the talk. It did rain, but it wasn't, I wouldn't qualify anything that happened like, oh, well, because of the rain or vice versa. It does look like Saturday, 79% chance of rain. Rainfall near a quarter of an inch. Steady rain in the morning, showers continuing in the afternoon. If that happens, if that happens, yeah, I mean, the track is you're gonna probably have a sloppy, muddy surface. You're gonna have some races maybe off the turf, but most importantly, Mystik Dan. I mean, like, that was the thing too with me, dude. Like, I kind of threw him in earlier in the day, in the week. Like, I kind of threw him in the mix because, like, you know what? There's a good chance of rain. If it does, like, I'm gonna want to use him at some place. Then I kind of just used him underneath after that, but like, it didn't. The track wasn't an impact necessarily with the surface, but I mean, it'd be hard to leave him off of anything if it does get the rain that they're expecting.
Yeah, I agree, and look, I kind of hope it does rain, because I don't think it's the slop that moves this horse up like a lot of people do. Guys, he's won 3 times, and every time he wins, it's really impressive. 2 of them are over a fast track, so I don't really think it's rain or fast track or sloppy track. I think he's just kind of inconsistent, right? And so I really don't think I think the weather means he takes more money, but I don't necessarily think it increases his chances all that much. We know he can handle it, where some of the other ones we don't know that they can handle it. Although, Catching Freedom has been over a sloppy track before. Uncle Heavy has. So look, I mean, it maybe helps him as far as, hey, he's been over it and he can handle it, but look, he ran huge in a maiden special weight on a fast track. He ran huge in the Kentucky Derby on a fast track. So rain or shine, he has the ability to run huge in this race.
He does. We'll get to the race. I'll say this. I'm not picking Mystik Dan. So there's a kind of a little bit of a spoiler alert of the race. But am I going to use him and try to use him defensively as much as I can? Probably. Because at the end of the day, like, I think it'd be nice if he did win, because obviously having a Triple Crown on the line is always good for racing. If we could have that going into the Belmont, which, by the way, he's going to be ran at Saratoga. So that would add a whole other layer of intrigue, right? Because the whole talk of now, is it a real Triple Crown? Because now it's a mile, it's not the right distance. And is that Saratoga? Who would have thought? I think most people thought when Mystik Dan wins, like, well, at least we have to worry about that factor. I know I did. I was like, well, probably, we'll have to worry about that kind of. I mean, could be fun, right? So
great.
Let's not waste any time, because today we are going to talk. Maybe we have to, not really have to, but Black Eyed Susan's running on Friday. We'll talk about that a little bit, and we'll go over our picks for the Black Eyed Susan on Friday, and then we'll move over and do all the focus on the Preakness. Can Mystik Dan do it again? Let's go. All righty. Let's bring her up here. Let us know in the comments down below if you are in here live. Let us know what your thoughts are on both of these big races. Well, I use big lightly in this one, but we'll talk about it though. Okay. Let's see, man, this race. Remember Attila Verve on a Preakness sloppy track, finished second at 50-1. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be something weird. I mean,
Sure.
it's if in this kind of group, you're going to get something dumb,
Yeah, I mean, Rich
Maybe it's
Strike.
underneath, whatever it is, something that makes no sense, right?
Rich Strike won at 80-1 on a fast track. I mean, these races have just produced weird stuff, whether it be rain or not. I mean, I think rain obviously adds to the chance of it happening, but overall, these big races have been a little bit crazy, whether it be winners or underneath horses. So, I kind of in the video I did for it, I talked about Mugatu and I talked about Uncle Heavy, and I said, look, like, weird horses have come in underneath in these things. So, I mean, you can't really totally discount anybody.
Yeah. No, I mean, like the Rich Strike effect, like we've talked about over the years, especially when a horse that isn't quote unquote expected to win the race, the Derby, they all get bet, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just will, whether it be because they don't trust these horses, like because it was fluky, they won, or just the fact that, I mean, you kind of have the thought of, well, I can't, we saw a long shot win the Derby, like this long shot could do it here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, no horse will go. I saw that. Where is it? Somewhere. No horse. Yeah, no horse will go off higher than 20-1.
Probably
Yeah,
not.
I would say that's probably right, Curtis.
Yep.
And
Mugatu might.
yeah. Although I heard they like the real draw. I literally saw a quote as like, we really like. I'm like, well, hope you liked it. Hope you liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, guys, before we head to our handicapping, make sure you guys go over to twinspires.com. Go use promo code DUDES, DUDES, and receive a 100% deposit match on your first deposit up to $200. That's $200 up to $200. Promo code DUDES. You can bet every race on Friday and Saturday at Pimlico here at twinspires.com. Promo code DUDES. And make sure you go take advantage of that promo while it lasts. All right, Halterman, let's go to Friday, and that is race number 13, the George E. Mitchell Black-Eyed Susan Stakes, grade 2 or 300K going a mile. In an eighth for, of course, the 3-year-old fillies, field of 8. Lines up here, Halterman, and really you got Jenny Marie at 20-1 and Ringy Dingy, which is a great name, I agree. Lemon Muffins even better at 10-1. But listen, I'm just going to call it out, and I'll let you kind of take it. This might, I don't know, I don't think might's the word. It is the worst Black-Eyed Susan I've ever seen. And I've, again, I haven't been following it my whole life, but I've been following it for the last 15 years, and it's by far, because at least there are, I mean, typically the Black-Eyed Susan isn't a stellar race, but you usually have at least one like pretty solid horse in the race. Mm-hmm. Dude, I mean, I'm sorry, but like you look at all these horses, even the 5-2s, the 7-2s, and I mean, they aren't winning races.
It's a horrible field. Like I got this, and Magic was like, yeah, do a video for it. I was like, yeah, okay. I got this, and I was like, what is this? Like, and it's always bad when you're like, I knew the horses, but I was like, what race was that again they ran in? Like when you get to these big races like this and you do this for a living, when they draw the big cards, you don't have to look up most of these horses. And maybe for refreshers and replays and stuff, but you know where they've been and what they've done, right? Half this field, I would say, I was like, who the hell? I can't even remember where that rate, where he was or she was at last time out. That's bad. So it's a bad race. Look, I went with number 5 Gunsong, and she was pretty bad last time out, but I mean, most of these were pretty bad their last race, I went with Gunsong. I thought she ran 2 pretty good races at Gulfstream Park before finishing 4th last time out in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. So I'm not excited about it. I think this horse has the best finishing run. Like I said, I went number 5 Gunsong. I'll probably just spread as much as I can in this race and hope to survive, though, because it's bad.
Let me ask you this, but like kind of to the point, not to keep tacking on to how bad this race is, but wouldn't you say if this was on the card at any point of the race or on the card and it was an allowance race, okay, you would be like, that's a pretty shitty allowance race. Like these are not. I mean, this is a grade 2 Black Eyed Susan. Is it an indication of this race kind of, obviously it's getting worse and worse, it feels like, but is this, the fact that no big horses really pointed here, even like a Bob Baffert, who typically would have like, he's bringing one in or a couple in for the Derby or for the Preakness. He might add a one or two here.
Yeah.
Like, is it an indication this race is just garbage? Everyone points to the Oaks, and then, obviously you have the big Belmont card in a few weeks. Like, that this is just kind of sandwiched in the middle and no one really gives a shit.
Yeah, a little. I really thought like a Kinza might be here for Bob Baffert, like that type of horse, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's just like he does kind of just feel like it's like, well, what they used to call this the Triple T era. Well, I guess nobody cares about that anymore, and so they just skip it, like you said, and they go to the Acorn, like Torpedo Anna. Like once Mystik Dan crossed the finish line, is like, okay, yeah, no, we're not running the Preakness. We're gonna go and now go to the Acorn. Like
even on Friday, the was like, well, it's either the Preakness or we wait, because the Black Eyed Susan makes 0 sense. And why would it? It's a $300,000 race. If it's $1 million race or something, and you could talk yourself into it maybe.
At the end of the day, like it's situational. Every year's a little bit different, and this year there just wasn't kind of that. I'll call it like the in-betweeners that like they couldn't quite make the Oaks, but they need a race, and maybe they didn't think they were good enough to go to the Acorn, but they're still really good. And then at the end of the day, we don't really have that this year, right? And so it's like we had a lot of top end horses in this division. They all ran in the Oaks, and they're just not gonna come for this. It's not going to attract somebody just because of what it is, right? No. Like that's the thing. And so you're going to every year this race is kind of falling in a situation where you're going to have to get lucky, and some like I said, those tweeners kind of fall into this race.
All right, so let's get to my pick. You went with Gunsong. I went with went all the way to the outside with the 8 Recharge for Asmussen Rosario aboard. He rode this horse back at Sunland 2 back. His horse had rattled off 3 straight, and then just didn't run well in the fantasy. Of course, remember who won the fantasy? Torpedo Anna. That was a really good race, obviously, from her, who went on to thrash in the Oaks. But this horse drawing outside isn't totally ideal, but this horse has speed. And I believe that if the horse, with Rosario aboard, like when he's won on the lead with her, but this horse has one kind of stalking the pace, and I think kind of drawing outside will allow that horse for her to kind of dictate where she needs to go. If she needs to get to the lead, that's fine. If not, then maybe she can kind of sit off that. But she does have speed. Listen, dude, I mean, that's about as much as I want to try to hype that one up. I'll be honest with you, because that's the thing. You're going with any of these horses. Recharge, last time out, finished 5th, beating 8 3/4. Calypso, last time out, finished 3rd, beating 8. Yeah. Your horse, Gunsong, last time out, finished 4th, beating 7 3/4. Like, there's a theme here, guys. Like, these horses aren't very good. They're running in this race because they're not very good. They're trying to win a stakes race. Dude, I'll tell you what. I'll throw out another one that I was interested in. I think it's just a matter of if the numbers can improve, or if the numbers are just kind of bullshit because of the smaller track. But the 4, Call Another Play, has rattled off just 3 straight dominating wins. Now, they all have been at Laurel, but if this horse can kind of transition that into this kind of level, that might be the horse to look at.
I almost picked that horse because you say this kind of level. It's this kind of level in name only, right? Like, yeah. I mean, so it's like, yeah, okay, it is a grade 2 race, is the Black Eyed Susan, but yeesh, like they're not great horses in this thing. So I think that horse fits, but I think on numbers going to have to take a little bit of a step up for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too. It kind of depends. Like, if you look at time form, the numbers are decently lower than a couple of these. If you look at buyers, I mean, this horse ran a 75 buyer in that last race. That's listed stakes race at Laurel.
Yeah.
I mean, Recharge ran a 77. I mean, Crypto was 78 last time out. Gunsong was 78, 9, 85, 86 the last 2. That's probably the horse that's got the least the most on paper talent. Gunsong is. We'll see if that transitions here. But you're right. I mean, listen, I would never tell anyone to play a short price in this race. Never, ever.
Yeah.
Like if Recharge for whatever reason gets bet down to like 6-5, I have no interest whatsoever.
Same. Like I say that for any of them if you're going to pick them. Like you kind of like Gunsong to me. I don't think will get too much play. I mean, he might go to 7-2, 4-1, which is okay. But yeah, if you pick one and it's like, oh shit, they're getting smashed, you might just say, well, maybe we'll go somewhere else because betting 6-5, 7-5, 8-5 on anything here seems a bit absurd. I think the betting to that point will be interesting because I would think, as you know, thank God I'm not a morning line maker, by the way. I'll just want to say that. But if you were, gosh, this would be a hell, because people are going to pay attention to this. And this is just hell to make this morning line. It's such a blah race, you know?
We have a buddy, a mutual, I won't throw his name out here, but a mutual friend that was kind of bitching to me today about the morning line on this race. And I was like, well, I mean, shit, I get it. But at the same time, like how do you come up with the morning line here? They're all garbage. Not to mention, are they garbage horses? But how do you, with this kind of group, how do you know how people are going to bet them? That's the thing. Like, there's no indicator here of, well, this horse is doing this. And the one horse that it probably has the most kind of steam coming into the race is the 4. Yeah. But I mean, how can you make this horse a shorter price? Much shorter price. So yeah, it's a tough. I mean, I get it, man. This is I would not want to try to come up with how these horses are going to be bet here.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't either. Some morning lines are easier than others, and this one is a rough one. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's not. Hopefully we're alive to some stuff, right, going into this race, because it's not really must-see TV if all your tickets are dead. So hopefully we've got some alive that makes it a lot more intriguing.
I mean, hopefully if my horse or your horse doesn't win, it's like a lemon muffin over ringy dingy exacta or something. That's what I'll be rooting for.
Well, I was doing the preview and I said, all right, number 2 is ringy dingy, and I literally had to stop myself. I was laughing. I was like, good Lord. So.
Try to say ringy dingy and lemon muffin in the same sentence without laughing. You can't.
I literally did.
All right, guys. All right, Alterman, give us your final pick or your pick once again and kind of your final thought of the race.
I'll go number 5, Gunsong. Like I said, I'll stick with it. Hopefully we're alive to something here, and it'll make it interesting because this is not good this year.
Give me the 8 Recharge. Yeah, I mean, kind of the same situation as a Halterman, kind of similar horses. I think we kind of had the same idea here. We're not taking the favorite necessarily, but it's hard to go against a few of these, just because of there's at least shown some sort of ability. I'm hoping Recharge sits in a very tactical position. If the lead does get taken, then that's fine. If for whatever reason she kind of inherits the lead, then I think that works as well. So give me the 8 Recharge, Asmussen, and Rosario to win the Black-Eyed Susan. Hey, listen, I mean, not to play dad here, but let's get the chat. Let's get it. Come on, clean it up, because you're about to get muted.
I didn't have arguing over the odds of Everfast in the 2019 Preakness on my bingo card tonight.
Not to mention, you can just look it up, right?
And literally, they have. He was 29-1. It's not hard. You don't have to guess what he was. You go to Equibase, you type in Everfast, you click on the Preakness chart. He was 29-1. Easy. I did it. I literally did it while Jared was talking. And
I didn't look at it because to be honest, I don't give a shit.
Well, no, that's true too. Yeah.
It was like, in my thought, I was like, well, surely someone's looked it up and that can end that argument, but whatever.
Well, this is insane. So.
Not at post time, he says.
I mean, you literally are wrong. I don't know what to tell you.
All right, listen. Okay,
he went off at $29.30 to 1. That is it.
I'm the host of this show. I will have the final say. What race are we talking about?
Go to Equibase, type in Everfast, click on the Preakness chart. He was 29.3 to 1.
Or you know what we're gonna do? Just because and I don't even want to. But I think this will be fun. Let's see. Well, he ran a lot. Hang on. Okay, he got second in the Preakness. 29.3. was his final odds there, buddy boy.
Exactly. Yeah, blow it up for him. Can't see it. Blow it up. There he is, 29.3 to 1. There it is.
Those are the final odds, people.
Now-
War of Will was 6 to 1, 29 to 1 on Everfast. Owendell was 7, almost 8 to 1.
Yeah.
Those are the final odds. Those aren't the morning line odds.
Now, can we please talk about the Preakness now? Please.
As host of this show, I am thereby. Do I have a gavel? Okay, that's it.
Go.
Everfast was 29 to 1 of the freaking race. Wow. Okay.
Good Lord. Okay.
I did not think I would ever even mention that horse's name again, but
no. No.
You know what? We're doing Lord's work here.
We are. Yeah. Us and what's it, Harrison Butker. We're doing the Lord's work. God, what a psycho that guy is. Holy shit. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh, wow.
Jeez. We were I didn't know anything about it, and Heather played it for me in the office, and we were like, whoa, like he went all in. And I was like, what is this again? Like, is this like a religious conference that he's talking in? Because if it was, it's like, well, hey, he's with like-minded people. It's like, whatever. She's like, no, it's like a graduation speech. I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. Like, you get up there and go, hey, congratulations, be the best you can do. Be the best you can be.
Well, listen, it's not. We've had a couple good offseason. We got a good draft. We had a good, signing with Hollywood. It hasn't been the greatest offseason other than that. Overshe and Butker maybe need to. It's like, you can look at Mahomes and you're like, dude, everyone just shut the fuck up. Okay. Just stop doing, it's like people around him. But no, listen, I love Butker. He saved our ass more times than I count. But listen, that I watched that and I thought, dude, what are you doing? Did no one proof it? Did no one sign off on that?
I don't know. I don't know.
It was bad. It
was
bad. Yeah, I was just like, dude, know your audience or something.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it was. I have no defense for that. So. Listen, I'm not. He can be what he wants to be. I'm not like Halterman said. It's not to me. It doesn't really matter. I don't agree with what he said, but at the same time, know your place, right? Can you just imagine going to any sort of graduation and all of a sudden they start spewing out stuff about abortion and whatever, and you're just like, what is happening? Like,
well, that's why I stopped her. I said, look, if he's like at a Christian rally or convention, whatever, it's like, hey, whatever, like. But yeah, it's weird.
Well,
first of all, it's Benedictine College. Okay, it's like a JUCO in Kansas. I'm probably one of the only ones that have been to that school. All right, it's not really a Christian college. It's where a lot of kids go there because they couldn't quite play basketball or football at other places, so they go there. Like that's the type of school it is. So. Yeah.
Anyways, this chat has evolved into things I did not think it would go, especially given the Preakness pod. But let's move on, please.
Yeah.
All right. Saturday at Pimlico features race 13, the second leg of the Triple Crown. The Preakness Stakes is grade 1. We're $2 million going a mile and 3/16 for the 3-year-olds. And again, the betting Bible for this race, as well as the entire 14 race card at Pimlico on Saturday, is now available at racingdudes.com. If you haven't seen it yet, go over there, grab the betting Bible. We did a whole new format. If you've been doing the betting Bibles, this one is amazing. It's light years better. It offers more bets, more options, different scenarios, it gives everybody a little bit more to play, a little more advice within every single race between Halterman and myself. All the other stuff, the top fours, all that stuff remains the same, but just more info, more things to help you guys cash some tickets. So betting Bible for the Preakness available right now at racingdudes.com on the products page. All right, Halterman. Listen, we had a field of 9. We had a field of 9 down to field of 8 with the scratch of the morning line favorite, Muth for Bob Baffert, who I think you and I can both agree. I know you and I can both agree, but I think most people can agree that this horse would have been a very, very tough horse to beat on Saturday. But no Muth. So now we're down to Mystik Dan as your favorite. Your Derby winner, looking to go 2 for 2 so far in the first 2 legs. But, you've got Catching Freedom, who ran fourth, a good fourth in the Kentucky Derby. A few others in here that we've seen. Imagination taking his shot now for Bob Baffert, as well as Tuscan Gold for Chad Brown, who's been pointing to this race for a while as well. So, kind of how are you handling this race now with the Muth scratch?
Oh boy, this got completely wide open when he scratched, in my opinion. But I do think it makes it a little bit more of a better betting race with him out of it, because now the favoritism will go to Mystik Dan. And if you love Mystik Dan, that's great. But if you think he's vulnerable here, all of a sudden he is at a very short price, and you can try to beat him if you don't like him. So, and I don't like him enough to bet him at 6-5. So all of a sudden, here we go. And you've got great options. You do have the classiest horse of the race, number 3, Catching Freedom. You've got that option that makes a ton of sense. You've got the option of the Chad Brown angle. He has brought horses here, and they have run so well. And Tuscan Gold could do the same here. So the number 8, Tuscan Gold, you got that Chad Brown angle. It makes a ton of sense. And then you've got the number 9, Imagination. And oh, by the way, yeah, that's the Bob Baffert angle, which has been pretty darn good, including last year, bringing a horse in National Treasure, which at the time, I want to stress, at the time, he wasn't much coming into this race. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great either. Now, he blossomed later on in the year. We know that. But coming into this race, Imagination kind of has done more than what National Treasure had done coming into this race. So you have options. If you love Mystik Dan, go ahead and take him. If you don't, you do. There's the 3 logical options I just laid out for you.
All right. So I think let's just kind of start with maybe the pace setter or the pace a little bit. And that is kind of, I think, Bob Baffert's Imagination. Do you subscribe to the idea of, like most people do, or a lot of people have said, like, hey, now, especially with Muth out, not to say Muth, like, he's shown that he can kind of rate off of it, so to speak. But, obviously he would have had a huge play in that pace scenario. And it definitely would have felt like Imagination setting it up for him. Do you think that now that he's out, Imagination kind of is going to have his own way here and could be sitting there like the end of the day being like, man, oh yeah, Bob Baffert won gate to wire, shocker. Like, how did I not see that coming?
Yeah, I think that is a very, very logical thing to kind of assume, because I do think if he breaks sharp, he can cross over. I think, Sees the Gray might send to the front, but I think we've seen Imagination kind of do that a little bit more consistently. So look, I think he gets the lead. I think he's, about a length ahead. I kind of said on my preview, I don't think he's a horse that's just going to run away from you. Like, I don't expect him to be 5 ahead or anything like that, but to me, they just send him, they get him to the front, and I don't see a world where he's not turning for home and he's got the lead. I think the pace is going to set up beautifully for Imagination. Now, if Imagination misses the break, all of a sudden Sees the Gray could be on the lead, and if Sees the Gray misses the break, then Imagination's way out there by himself. So, but on paper, if everything works out like we think it should, I see Imagination having like a length lead and setting a 48 half mile.
Well, listen, here's the thing about Imagination is, well, one, like, I don't necessarily think he's some insanely good horse. I think he's solid. I don't think he's a world beater by any stretch of the imagination. But this is a horse that his wins have not necessarily always been on the lead, or at least, he's very close to it. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But you go back and look at the San Diego Derby. I mean, a Stronghold beat him, who ran pretty well, really, in the Kentucky Derby, all things considered. He set off of it, kind of came and then did, really ran his race, and then Stronghold just fired back. And then, you've mentioned this several times in the past with the May Moon race, he ended up losing, but the way he kind of set off, did his thing, bam, here he came, got the lead, and then he lost it. But my point of that saying is, being that he's drawing outside, I don't necessarily think it's going to be a, hey, Dettori, like, get to the lead no matter what. I think it's going to be a situation where it's like, well, get out of the gate, get your placement, but if Caesar Cray goes some insane, it's like, okay, fine. That's, we'll sit right off of it. I do think hit the top of the stretch just because of the way imagination is. Like we've seen all his races. He's going to have something to say about it at the top of the stretch. Now, is he good enough? Will he hold him off? He does like to kind of play around with horses, so to speak. He doesn't like to pull away. He likes to kind of get right there in these little head bobs. So that's an issue. Is he going to wait for someone to come get him? But I do think top of the stretch, midway down the stretch, he is going to be right there.
I would be shocked if he wasn't. Like that means he really was disappointing. And you laid it out. And that's why at the end of the day, I was scared to put him on top. Not scared, but I just didn't really want to put him on top. Look, I went back and watched the Santa Anita Derby, and I left that race and I said he was the best horse. But he didn't. It's just like he doesn't know what to do, or he doesn't want to do it. It's like, okay, I'm in front. Now I'm going to wait. Okay, Stronghold, and you watch Santa Anita Derby, he's waiting for him. Stronghold goes and gets him. Stronghold looks like he's going to win pretty easily. And then within a few strides, Imagination's ahead, and then he gets beat again. But they're just kind of, he's just kind of, flip-flopping with him down the stretch. You look at the May Moon race, same thing. He just flip-flopped with him down the stretch. He'd get ahead, May Moon would get ahead. He doesn't have that, and it's weird to say about a horse, but he hasn't shown that killer instinct of, I'm going to the wire as fast as I can. He runs as fast as the horse that's with him. Now, if they can work that out of him, if they've got that worked out of him, if they think he's doing better than he ever has, all the things that you hear, if he turns for home and he's got a length lead and they ask him to go and he starts to run away from them, he's going to win the race. Yeah. I have no doubt, but I have I shouldn't even say major doubts. I have doubts that he will do that because I have not seen him do that in 6 starts now.
Honestly, guys, he's a horse that struggled with it as a 2-year-old, right? Yeah. That same situation that, he broke his maiden on January 1st, his first asking as a 3-year-old, and he did it like, okay. And then that allowance race, he kind of did, like I said, the May Moon, like he just kind of did it again. He doesn't like to quote unquote kind of put these horses away. So, but listen, like you said, I do think he's shown little bits of pieces of every race where he's shown talent. Bob Baffert has said that he's filled out, that he's a better horse. Who knows? We know how that goes, right? But he will have a say. But okay, let's just have this scenario now, guys. He hits the top of the stretch. He's right there. He's in the lead. Whether you believe he can't get the distance, whether you believe someone will come get him, whatever the case may be. Let's talk about who those horses might be. Catching Freedom, a horse that came flying out. That's his style. Ran a nice race in the Derby to get 4th. Just clearly wasn't good enough to get in that top 3 pack, the top 3 photo finish, I should add. Mystik Dan, another horse who's probably going to sit a nice trip once again. And then Tuscan Gold, the horse that is kind of one of the new shooters. Chad Brown obviously knows how to point a horse to this race and win it. So let's talk about those 3, Halterman, and how you kind of see their trips unfolding.
Yeah, I really think everybody just on the surface should get the trips that they desire. It's an 8-horse field, right? And you'd have to think with any of them, any of the 3 you mentioned, they probably just kind of want to sit off of the lead, but I don't think they want to be just way far back. And look, again, it's an 8-horse field. You should get a pretty good trip. There shouldn't be a lot of excuses, right? But however, at the same time, you do know that shit happens in a race. One of them probably won't. But to me, it's like kind of drop back. Don't drop all the way to the back. Sit to the middle and just try to make your move. I don't think this race is real complicated from a trip standpoint for anybody because they all kind of have those clear and defined roles, at least coming into it. Now, one horse doing something different can throw it all up, as we know, throw it off, I should say. But overall, it's 8 horses. They all kind of know what they want to do.
Listen, dude, I'll be honest. Like going into this, I didn't think I would land on Tuscan Gold. The more I watched that Louisiana Derby, the more I was like, that seems like a horse that's getting better. You go back and you watch that and you're like, there's a part of that race, top of the stretch, where it's like he may finish like 8th. Like it looks like he's getting swallowed up by these horses. Like he's not the horse. he fought on, man. I mean, those two, obviously Anna Marie and Catching Freedom went flying by everybody on the outside, but Tuscan Gold kept on. Now, it wasn't like he was one of the last, just one of those left. He was coming. Now, again, he's going to have to improve, but to be fair, that was his first start off of maiden special weight, right? And a horse that each start has gotten better. Is he going to have to improve to win here? Certainly, for 1,000%. But I do think the fact that Chad has made sure since March 23rd, basically, to kind of point this horse, not focus on trying to get him the Derby, focused on getting him here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that means that we are going to see a quote unquote better performance. It just depends on what that performance is.
Well, look, Blazing Sevens is really not a very good horse. That's not breaking news. And he was able to almost win the Preakness last year. So Tuscan Gold, I think he's a better horse than Blazing Sevens. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. The Chad Brown factor is just always one of those things, right? Like the Chad Brown thing in this race and the Chad Brown thing in the Bluegrass, that's become almost as big a thing. Not for the general public who just follows these three races, but you can always count that Chad Brown will have his best horse ready to fire in the Bluegrass. And they do every time, even when they lose, they fire. And now he has the reputation of that other Chad Brown. It's usually his second best horse will fire in the Preakness. So, and even Good Magic, who ran in the Derby, he fired in the Preakness too when he didn't have him rest. Now, unfortunately, he was up against Justify and he got worn down. But yeah, absolutely. So how can I argue against picking a horse like Tuscan Gold when you've seen Chad Brown do it? I don't think it's a bad pick at all.
All right, let's talk about the Derby winner, Mystik Dan. I'll be honest, okay, and I'll kind of sum up this race for me, anyways. The way I don't think these horses are very good, and so I don't believe Catching Freedom and Mystik Dan can win this race off 2 weeks. I just don't think they're good enough horses to do that turnaround in 2 weeks. Not to mention, they both just ran their eyeballs out in the Derby. It wasn't like Mystik Dan cruised home. It wasn't like Catching Freedom kind of had a bad trip and was like kind of just ran home, but kind of eased home basically. No, like they were running their asses off to try to win that race at the end. And so I don't believe Cox can necessarily do it off of the 2 weeks. I don't believe, because I mean, obviously all the focus was on the Derby for both of these horses. And then Mystik Dan, I don't think he can do it either. So the way I kind of handicapped this race was like kind of, and then I could be wrong, right? I mean, obviously but I believe these horses aren't good enough to do the 2 week turnaround. So I'm mostly looking at the new shooters, so to speak. And the two new shooters that I'm most interested in are the 8 Tuscan Gold and the 9 Imagination.
Mm-hmm. I will push back. I really, really believe Kenny McPeak kind of told you after the Derby, I'm worried about the 2 weeks. I mean, this is a guy that is very, very confident about his horses. He's a Lucas type. Like, he believes they're winning. He kind of said, look, I'm not sure about 2 weeks. I'm not sure we're going to run. He's going to have to do everything great, all this stuff. So I think, truth serum is out there for Kenny McPeak. He kind of told you, I'm a little worried about it. So that was enough. I'll push back on Catching Freedom. So Brad Cox hardly ever runs it back in 2 weeks, right? I think the fact he's got this horse here, I think he feels pretty good about it. And I don't think Cox enters horses. Well, I know Cox, he does not enter horses for the hell of it. He just doesn't. And he enters, he's looking to win. He's not messing around. He's not running just because it's a huge race. Catching Freedom being here tells me that Cox believes he's going to fire. He believes that he's not tired. So, because here's the deal. With Mystik Dan, there's a lot of outside pressure to be here. There is, right? For the Derby winner not to go in the Preakness, it would have been a bad story. And listen, McPeak is one of those guys. He doesn't want that. He wants to do what's best for racing. I really believe that. And he wants that limelight. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no reason for Catching Freedom to be here. None. There was no pressure. I know for a fact the owners were like, really? We're running? That's cool. Like they were not pressuring Brad Cox to do it. That to me makes him dangerous. That was my thought on, yes, coming back in 2 weeks, that's something he never really does. However, the fact that he never does it and he does it here is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair for sure. And I could obviously could be wrong with him. I just and again, he did. I guess he could probably run that race and have a chance. I looked at him in the Derby and said, okay, good horse, not good enough. And I kind of just view him as a horse that is going to be a horse that finishes second or third here. And it's like you look and say, well, he was good. He's pretty good, but I just don't think he's got that. And again, I'm picking a horse that he beat 2 back. And so that's a fair fire back to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just kind of feel like Catching Freedom is who he is. And maybe that is enough to win here. I guess my point is if Tuscan Gold or Imagination don't fire, I do think Catching Freedom is the best horse. Like I like him way better than Mystik Dan. Let me make that very clear. I just think the new shooters aspect is going to be tough for him to overcome.
I don't disagree that I would. That's why I was all over Muth, because it's like a rested horse that's really proven, sure. And that's why I am very, very worried about Imagination, because a rested horse hasn't done quite as much as Muth, but still has done a lot. Yeah, I worry about it. But I get it, and I get your pushback. I think that makes total sense. A couple of stats, and this will just show you how rare a lot of these trainers run horses back in 2 weeks. I'll ask you a trivia question.
Okay.
In the last year, how many times do you think Brad Cox has ran a horse back in 2 weeks?
Oh, how many times or percentage?
Yeah. No, well, I'll say the percentage is just how many times.
Like 5. I mean, it can't. Like he doesn't.
You got it. 5. In the last year, he's done it 5 times. 1 win, 3 seconds. So that tells you 3 out of 5 times they fired. They showed up. So
do you know the stat? Because I was looking earlier and I didn't. I gave up on it. But do you know the stat on how many times how often has he done it with a Derby? This exact Derby to Preakness.
I have no idea.
I couldn't think of one.
I could just say off the top of my head, I don't think there's been one.
Yeah, and so that to me was like that's interesting.
So go ahead.
I'm just saying, like I thought of that stat and I was like, I wonder if he's done it before, because it definitely is. I think you can look at it both ways, right? He's never it's like, oh, well, I can't believe he's doing this. Like that horse has no chance. Or you look at it and say, well, he never does this, so that must mean the horse has a chance. So
yeah,
I think it depends on how you look at it.
I was talking to a mutual friend that is familiar, let's say, with the situation with Catching Freedom and Brad Cox and that. And I said, what do you think about 2 weeks? He's like, I think he'll be fine. So, and I think because he's doing it, he'll be okay. They were more worried, like, is he good enough? And hey, that's a worry for any of them, right? One last thing, Kenny McPeak, who is aggressive, I 100%. Guess how many? He's only run a horseback 2 weeks or less, 27 times in the last year. I was surprised by that. I thought he would be a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, only 27 times. And again, it shows you, here's a guy that I think you and I both agree he's one of our aggressive trainers. Only 27 times the last year. 7% have won. 44% have hit the board.
And guys, I think a good thing to kind of, and again, it's all horses, all rears are different, but a good kind of like, okay, let's take a step back. Go watch last year's race. And Mage, how good Mage looked in the Derby and looked incredible. And you looked at the Preakness field, especially after first mission scratched, and you're like, this is over, right? Like, there's no way this horse can lose. And National Treasure just rolled home, tried anything he could do to get past, and no one did. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, man, these 2 weeks it's just too much for these horses. And so again, it could be different. Obviously, every year is different, but like Mage was light years better than that the 2 weeks prior.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a concern that not just us have, but his trainer Kenny McPeak has.
So let me read you off two more because Shoddy said, meanwhile in the Lucas barn, Dwayne Lucas, the most aggressive trainer, I would call him.
Yeah.
He's only ran 2 weeks or less 16 times in the last year. 6% winners, 44% in the money. And this Beggs goes, or whoever the hell this is goes, how did Justify do with 2 weeks? How about AP? We're talking about Bob Baffert, okay? Like one of the, like you can't compare 2 Triple Crown winners trained by Bob Baffert to what we see here, right? So, and also, I picked one that's coming back in 2 weeks. I'm just saying you don't see it very often. And by the numbers, Brad Cox has done it the best, even though he's only done it 5 times. By the numbers, he has the best percentage, 20%.
Let's do another game here. And you guys can tell me what you think of this. Okay. So I'm not going to tell you the horse, but you can probably figure it out. This horse won this main special weight. Then he got second in a grade 1, got third in a grade 1. Those were as 2-year-olds. As a 3-year-old, he got third in a grade 3. He got fourth in a grade 1. And then won the Preakness.
Yeah. Right.
That's National Treasure. Okay.
Yeah.
This horse coming into this race. And again, I think Halterman's right. Imagination is a better horse than National Treasure was at this point last year. So I think you've got to be careful, especially when it's Bob Baffert. You got to be careful with being like, well, this horse isn't very good, or this horse is one-dimensional, or this horse is whatever. We've seen way worse horses win this race trained by Bob Baffert.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, he wasn't even close in the San Antonio Derby.
Yeah.
Now, again, like that was a tougher year, but he wasn't even close that year. You know, Practical Move, Mandarin Hero, Skinner, National Treasure. I mean, I don't know. I just think, and honestly, unfortunately, we didn't see Practical Move, but like I didn't think Stronghold really disappointed in himself too much in the Derby. So
I will say the biggest thing about it, imagination, every race he's been in, it feels like he was going to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
You cannot say the same about National Treasure coming into this race. So,
well, Imagination has been the favorite of 4 of his last 5 races. So there's, to your point, and the only one he wasn't was an allowance race, but the last 2 grade 1, grade 2 races, he was the favorite.
Well, and he was 2-1 in that allowance race because Maymoon was in it and was a huge favorite, So, I mean, I have no doubt that this is a horse that to this point is way above what National Treasure was doing. Now, again, can he improve like National Treasure? Because he's turned into something special where Imagination, he has to now go try to do that, but he's got the class. There's no doubt about it.
All right. Give us your pick. And one thing I wanted to ask was kind of give us your pick and then give us like a statement, like leave us with something. No, like what's the statement of the race? Like what's one thing you want to leave people with about the Preakness? Like this year, what's one thing on your mind whenever you think about this Preakness? Give us the pick. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to go number 3, Catching Freedom on top. I think he's a very consistent horse. I think he's a very classy horse. I do think Pratt will work out a decent enough trip for him here. I don't think he'll be in last. I think they'll try to sit him a little bit closer. I look at him to kind of sit the Risen Star trip or Smarty Jones trip where he's about 3, 4, 5 off of it. I think it'd be fine. And again, I think Brad Cox bringing him back here is a really good sign that he's doing well. And I think he will run his race. And I just think, look, I think, sue me for this, I think he's a better horse than Mystik Dan. Overall, I do. And I think I still am not sold Imagination is going to run that like massive race. And I think it's going to be coming down to Imagination's in front. And here comes Catching Freedom. and I think it's going to get very tight. And I think Catching Freedom will edge him, but I wouldn't be shocked if Imagination got him either. So the 3-9 are the two I like the best. I think the story coming out of this is okay. We've got two different winners, and now we'll see what happens heading into Belmont and Saratoga.
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm kind of I'm nervous. You've made me more. I was already nervous playing against Catching Freedom, but now I'm a little more nervous. But I do have him kind of sprinkled in some spots. But yeah, I'm going to go with Tuscan Gold here, and again, maybe that's a little bit of a. I'm banking on a race, that an improved race that we haven't seen yet. But all signs to me show that he's a horse that has gotten better with each and every start. I think he learned a lot in that Louisiana Derby. T-Gaff has obviously ridden this horse the last 2 times, so he's back aboard here. I think the horse, more than anything, will be able to sit a pretty good trip and have a piece of this thing. If you don't think Mystik Dan will fire, or if you don't think he can, if he can do it off the 2 weeks, is the biggest question. And you think Catching Freedom maybe is similar, or maybe will be too far back, or whatever you want. To me, Tuscan Gold is going to get that first run at Imagination, and I really do think. I'm with you. I hope that Imagination wires the field, or because I have him in fantasy league, but I do think someone's going to get him. I do, and to me, I do believe that horse is the 8 Tuscan Gold. And honestly, guys, the way I'm going to leave it is, I'll say it again. I don't necessarily think these are the best horses in this race, and I don't think those horses that ran 2 weeks ago can fire their best efforts here again. And so I just think it's going to be a little too much. We're going to have a couple tired horses that ran a couple weeks ago, and one of these new shooters are going to take it home. So I guess before I leave it, is there any other horse in the race that we didn't mention that you're somewhat interested in?
I think Just Steel could be the horse to blow up your exacta or trifecta, because that's just what he does. I don't think he's going to win, but I think Just Steel will run better. I think he'll get a better trip. If you want to juice up the try or exacta, I think Just Steel is that long shot that makes sense. And finally, I want to say I'm kind of rooting for Mystik Dan if it looks like my bets are done, because I want the Triple Crown bid at Saratoga. I think that would just be incredible if that happens. So I think if Mystik Dan was to win this race, I'm not going to be too upset about it. And look, Mystik Dan versus Sierra Leone, Belmont at Saratoga, Triple Crown on the line. I mean, that's kind of what you dream of. But look, there's two different things in the sport. There's who you root for. And again, I'm rooting for Mystik Dan to win. And then there's who you have to put your money on based on your thoughts on handicapping. And my thoughts on handicapping is Mystik Dan at 6-5. I can't do it, especially when I don't think Mystik Dan is the overall best horse in the race. So you can't handicap with your heart. You got to handicap with your head. And so that's why I'm not going to play Mystik Dan, but I definitely will be rooting for him if it looks like he's going to romp or win. It's going to get like, okay, let's do it.
There you go. There's some good thoughts as we look towards the Preakness this weekend at Pimlico. Will Mystik Dan win the second leg of the Triple Crown and head to Saratoga in the Belmont in 3 weeks? We'll find out. Stay tuned. Yeah, man, it's going to be insane. I mean, Saratoga in June is going to be just wild anyways.
Yeah.
But if we do have a Triple Crown line with that's just, and so we talk shit about McPeak on here all the time, but it's like, it's not Baffert, it's not Pletcher, it's not, whatever, the list goes on. Like, that's kind of cool. That would be super cool to see and exciting. And it doesn't hurt the fact that you got a little debate on whether or not it's a real Triple Crown because of the distance change, and it's not a Belmont. You know what I mean? So there's just anything that has those kind of storylines is going to be good for racing. So
yeah. And that's and Jason, who looking forward to see him again. We get to see him early, get to see him a month early this year up at Saratoga. And I think that's kind of the thing about it is Jason said it, and I've seen other people say it as well. It looks like Tim's going to be there and a couple other are going to be there. look, and you said it best. I mean, Saratoga, the Belmont, we get an extra weekend of Saratoga this year. It's great, but the cherry on top would be a Triple Crowns on the line, especially if it does come down to Sierra Leone and Mystik Dan, and you turn for home at Old Saratoga, and Mystik Dan's ahead, and here comes Sierra Leone, and we've got a Triple Crown on the line. Get out of here with this 1.5 mile distance or asterisk on this thing. Yeah, it's 1.25 miles this year, but that feeling would be incredible to see that. So it might happen, but we'll see.
And dude, it doesn't hurt the fact that like no matter what, like even if Mystik Dan wins here, and it's like even however he wins it, he's not going to scare anyone off in the Belmont.
No,
and so it's not like Pharaoh and he would or Justify where you're just hoping to get one horse in there that could challenge him, right?
Mm-hmm.
This you won't scare. It's certainly not at Saratoga, especially. You're not going to scare. He's not going to scare anyone off, and so you're going to have. Honestly, dude, like it might, and he may not win, and I don't think he's going to win Saturday, but it would be one of the more legitimate, even though it would be at Saratoga at a different distance as far as the challengers go, one of the more legitimate Triple Crowns, right? As far as like that goes, because he's faced some tough challengers, and he would seemingly have faced some tough challengers every race. So,
and it would be surreal, like you mentioned it, to see Kenny McPeek try this. Like, and look, we have our thing with McPeek. We love to bet him at a big price. We don't like to bet him at a short price, but ultimately you have respect for the guy. He's been in the game forever. He's trained 1 million horses. He's trained, soon to be Hall of Fame horse, Swiss skydiver for sure. But others, he's cut his teeth in this business, and for him to have a shot at it, it'd be pretty cool. It really would.
And let me say this, because we give him a lot of heat for a guy that I believe he thinks he's in trouble off the 2 weeks.
Totally.
The fact that he's running them, I have a lot of respect for.
Totally.
Because a lot of guys this day and age would have been like, no, not doing it. Don't care that it's good or bad for the game or whatever. He doesn't care. If the horse is seemingly healthy and he's fine, has no issues, he's going to run them, and I respect the hell out of that.
Totally. 1,000% agree with that. I don't care what anybody says. That guy, when he's talking about a horse heading for that race, he's always confident. And for him to say right after that race, I'm not sure about the Preakness, it's a sign that he's worried. I don't care what I've watched this guy for, however long we've had the website, 15, 20 years now, I guess it's been 15, I guess, but he's worried about it. Look, and he should be, like anybody would be, but
Torpedo Anna wasn't even back to the barn yet, and he was saying she's going to run in the Preakness.
And that's the other part of it. Before Mystik Dan won that race, Torpedo Anna, he was basically saying, yeah, I think she could do it. I'll have to think about it, but that's definitely in the realm of possibilities. Because that's what he usually says, because that's him, and that's okay. That's fine. I love that about him. He didn't say that here, and it is concerning. Just handicapping the person that I've known for so long and seen these interviews for so long. It's scary. Not saying it's impossible. No, I'm not saying he can't win. I'm saying that's a little bit scary.
I agree. So here's the Mystik Dan. I'm with you. If I see Tuscan Gold thrashing for air in the stretch and Imagination spitting the bit, I'm gonna be like, "Where's Mystik Dan? Get him home, baby! Get him home! Come on!" So no, it's if those two can't get it done for me, then I'll be rooting my ass off for Mystik Dan, because and all the Dans out there as well, I'll be rooting for them. So
yeah, especially the Dan in our fantasy league. That's who I always think of, and I always think, boy, it's a shame Dan doesn't have Mystik Dan. But
have you heard? I never heard that he bet him. Did he bet him?
I don't think so. I think I would have heard about it.
I was gonna say I would have too, and it's pretty funny coming from a guy that likes to play like all the crazy shit that he didn't even bet Mystik Dan in the race. So whatever.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have. Check us out at racingdudes.com for our premium picks and our free picks. Go to the Get Racing Dudes premium button on the menu there at racingdudes.com, and you'll get access to that Preakness betting Bible. Again, it is fully updated, fully available now. All 14 races featured. It's got Halterman and I's picks, but not just our picks, but all the ways we're playing, our exactas, our trifectas, long shots we like in each race, the wins, how the pace will unfold, how each horse will have an impact on the pace, analysis of how to play your bankroll within that race. It's way more detailed than just Halterman and I giving a pick like the past ones. This one will be helpful for if you're just a win better, if you're just an exacta player, if you're a small better, if you're a big better, whatever it is. This Bible is way better than it has been. So make sure you go to racingdudes.com and get it. If you are a subscriber, as low as $70 a month, you get it for free. So head on over and check that out. We're on Twitter at racing_dudes, Instagram and Facebook. You can find all episodes of Blinkers Off by visiting our podcast page, Apple Podcasts, all the places you listen to. We are there.
Just real quick. This is an inaccurate comment. He won the Preakness. That was 4 weeks because that was the COVID year. So that was actually a 4-week turnaround, not 2. But I get why you would think it because every other year in the last however many years they've done it is 2, but that was actually 4.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But yeah, no, good. I'm glad you, it's, it helps to, that's why you have us, right? You
right.
Fact check. Go join the Discord if you haven't already. Join the Discord. If you can't get that link or you don't want to type the numbers, just go to any of our social profiles. You'll see the link there and join it. It's just an insane community of people talking about horses and everything else within here. So it's basically like the craziness of this chat, only in Discord. So go check out the Magic My Show. They did the late pick 5 sequence at Pimlico on Saturday. So if you wanted that analysis, Halterman, you and your dad, I'm guessing, talked a little Preakness as well.
We talked, what did we? That's been a while. We talked Preakness, and we talked the NHL and NBA again. Yeah. So yeah, Preakness, he picked Catching Freedom, I think, actually. He was on Muth and then he picked Catching Freedom.
Paul loves kickers from KC. Don't we all?
Well, listen, the whole thing is he's a hell of a kicker. My God, he's made some big field goals.
Jeez, I mean that whole season, he had his best season of all time last year. I mean, there for a while. When was it, Paul? Like we went, he went into week like 16 or 15, not missed one yet. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, he was going for the perfect season, really. And then even the playoffs, he made some just monster kicks, like distance kicks. The guy is just he has his best year. And then apparently he felt so good. He felt so good this offseason that he just wanted to tell us all about how he feels.
Let it all out.
oh, you're a Green Bay. All right, gotcha. Yeah, you need him in. Kevin, the Turtles. I didn't even break this news, but it's the season's over and the Turtles didn't play. Big news is Cohen is retired from soccer and is headed to football. So he said piss on soccer. He wants to play a real sport. He wants to play football. So
yes. Thank Lord Harrison Butker above that he's now playing football.
Listen, I was a soccer player myself, but I've been pushing go back because I mean 99% of you don't know what he looks like. That's great. That's actually really good for me. But he's a beast. Like he's a stud. He can throw the ball great, like football. So I mean, he needs to be playing football. And I told him that.
Yeah.
So,
he's a big kid. I agree. He looks like a football player. Yeah.
The Raptors coach, I haven't seen her around. I did see her son the other day at field day thing we did, and I stiff armed him to the ground because
You might try to get her number. I think she's back on the table.
Oh man, any potty training tips? Interesting. Boy, the first one's hard. I'll tell you that. Second one's super easy compared because the second one sees. Well, I guess for me it was 2 boys, so but they see it's like, hey, that's easy. I'll do that. But the first one, man, it's not easy. It's a lot of tears and a lot of cleaning pee up. You gotta get used to it. Missing the toilet a lot. They still do that. Honestly, they do that now. So I don't know when that. I don't know if that ever ends. Think about installing a urinal in my house. Actually, I think that might help. But they'd probably still pee on the wall. So, so Kevin, back on the market. So
I feel like you owe it to Kevin to let him
Kevin,
go.
back on the market.
Yeah.
So just you can't hold this big dog down too long. You know what I mean? So
yep,
you gotta let me run.
That's right.
You gotta let me run.
He's back. He's back.
He's back, baby. He's back.
Love it.
Hide your wives.
You better. Yeah, Heather's not coming around again.
Big dog got a scent. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. That's right.
There you go. There you go, baby. Cancel it. That's right.
Stand up. I agree. Yeah.
Come on. You got to stand up for some of the single dudes out here. All right, guys. On that note, for sure, we're going to call tonight. Yeah, it definitely does. The campus bars this fall after. Oh boy.
Listen, bro.
That didn't happen this year for that reason. So
we've had some good times, and we didn't. Well, it was fun at Keeneland, not gonna lie, but we didn't have good times after like midnight. But they're back. Keeneland, Lexington, we're back. We're coming back.
Listen, they missed us. They missed us last. They missed us last time, and we're gonna make up for it and then some. So we owe it to the people of Lexington. I think. I don't know.
I love it.
I got kicked out the night. Really? Wow.
Oh, we should have went with you. That
sounds like you had a better time than we did. So we'll be tearing it up. I don't know if we'll be Kevin, first of all, I
don't know, but that just killed me.
You need to enlighten the wife, clearly, okay? Or the fiance, I guess I should say. Don't want to get ahead of myself, but you need to enlighten her. She should know who I am. And if she doesn't, she will, if you know what I'm saying. So okay, never mind.
Kevin has a lot of funny cut. That one for some reason got me. That just hit me. That hit me right. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, Jared learned his lesson. Listen. We let Green Bay win. That's fine. Green Bay was at home during the Super Bowl. That's all I have to say about that. So, Kevin. Listen, Kevin. Let me tell you something. You are the light of every show, and I will forever hate and love you at the same time for every John White show we do, because John's like obviously an insanely great guest, and he's like just take after take. Very serious. We're trying to like focus, and then I see your comments, and I just can't keep a straight face. It's so it's almost a game. Halterman and I are like, after the show, we're like, dude, that about broke me. When Kevin said that, it about killed me. So.
There was one line during the show this year. I almost had to turn the camera off. I can't remember what it was now, but.
If you ever see kind of take a drink or it's because I'm trying to keep my shit together. So it wouldn't be the same without you, Kevin.
No, it wouldn't.
Oh man. All right, guys. I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. Good luck this year in the Preakness.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.